Hi, I'm Fifi, and this is Going Deeper with the Lord. It's Monday, and on Mondays, I just share the things that I am learning about relationships, or even looking at the way I used to do relationships before I was born again, and now looking at the way I do relationships with the Lord on a daily basis, and how my mind has been renewed, or the way I see things in a totally different light, and and I change the way I do this or the way I show up in relationships based on the things that I'm learning in doing life with God. So I'm gonna be sharing this something that I was listening to the teachings of Dr. Tony Evans, and he said something that I felt like it was powerful. And he was giving an example. He was saying that a certain professor was trying to teach his students um, the principle of priority. And he said this professor took a big jar, and there was a big stone and then little stones. So the plan was that they wanted to fit the big stone and the little stones all in this jar. So what they did was they took all the little stones, they filled them, they put all of them in the jar, and then they took the big stone, they put it in the jar. But because at the base was the small stones, that big rock could not like sink, could not fill up, go down the jar. So what they did was they took out the stone, the big stone, they took out all the smaller pebbles, and then they instead of putting the smaller ones first, they put in the big stone, and then they poured in all the little pebbles, and they were able to find their place around their big stone. So he was using that example for that the professor was using for his class to talk about priority. But then he was linking it to doing life with God. And he was saying that for us as believers, using that example, for us as believers, the big stone is Christ. That we need Christ in place. Christ should be our solid, firm foundation, and everything else should be added on top of Christ. Like we cannot have all the other relationships, all the other priorities, and then just put Christ on top because he won't fit. What we need to do is to establish Christ in our lives before we can accumulate everything else. All our vocations, our relationships, our friendships, they have to find their place. We have to build everything else that we're building on top of the rock. So that's what I want us to talk about today, is just to say that just doing life with God and walking with the Lord on a daily basis has shown me that when we make Christ the foundation of our lives, when we cultivate a personal relationship with God, and we have a personal experience, intimate experience of doing life with Christ, our relationship with God ends up feeding all the other relationships that we have. It ends up influencing all the other relationships that we have with other people. And we tend to get to do better relationships better now that we have Christ, and now that our relationships are influenced in Christ. We learn to do relationships the biblical way. You want to be a godly mother, you go to the word. You want to be a godly spouse, you go to the word, and your relationship ends up being influenced by Christ. But when we don't have Christ in our lives, and then we accumulate all the other people, and we have all these other relationships and all these other friendships and all these other life demanding things in our lives, and then we have a little bit of time for God. There is no how God is going to influence our relationships, and we're going to do our relationships the way we have always done relationships when we were in the world. And then when things are falling apart, we say, oh God, like, help me out, what do I do with this? But we cannot run to God only when there are problems. We have to establish Him first as the foundation of our life, so that He's able to teach us respect. He's able to teach us how to have difficult conversations. He's able to teach us how to talk about other people in ways where we are not uncovering them or in ways where we are not dishonoring them. When we do life with God, there is no how, when you get it right, there is no how you'll find yourself gossiping about the other person or venting about other people. The moment you even mention someone in a conversation, you'll have a conviction that you are dishonoring another. So that is why I like that analogy that Dr. Tony Evans used of the big stone and the little pebbles, to say that when we make Christ the foundation of our lives, when he is a priority, us doing relationships with him helps to feed and influence all the other relationships that we have. And when we encounter difficulties in our relationship, we don't run to our friends, we run to Christ. And I've mentioned it in one of my videos that I don't believe in the concept of best friends unless you know how to steward best friends well, relationships well, or best friend relationships well. Because sometimes the friends that we have in our lives, sometimes they take space. We take God's place in other people's lives. When your friend is always calling you, they should be talking to God about the things that are troubling them. They should be talking to God about the things that they are struggling with in their marriages or in their other relationships, instead of coming to us. So that is why I just stand by the fact that I don't believe in the concept of friend or of best friends, because sometimes even best friends, being best friends with other people, it enables that spirit of codependence where people cannot think for themselves. When they have a problem with someone else, they call you. When they have a trouble with their spouse, they call you. They don't have the time to just sit with a matter or to go to God so that God can call them out to say, actually, you are the problem. So that is why I feel like, even for some of us who are singles, before we get married, we have to have Christ in our lives. He has to be the center of our lives and be the one who is controlling our lives, to help us to do relationships with him in a great way, in order for us to do relationships with other people in a good way, in a way that is honoring them, in a way that is respectful, and we're able to respect their names, to respect everything that they share with us without taking it anywhere else but to God. So, brothers and sisters, I just wanted to share that, with the hope that this will help someone else out there and it will bless someone. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.